My name is Elin, and I'm actually a recruiter. And today is a little bit of an anniversary for me, because today I have been a recruiter for the past 5,900 days, people. Yeah, that's a long time. I'm also the CEO of Tengai, and prior to that I was the Chief Innovation Officer at TNG, which is the birth mother of Tengai, together with Feit Robotics. My daughter came to me one day asking the question, "Mommy, what is your job?" Let's see if I get, there she is. "Mommy, what is your job?" Now this is the moment in a parent's life where you sort of wish that you were something really, really cool and easy to explain to a 5-year-old. But I have also been very clear with her, it's important not to lie. So I started to tell her that, well, you know, honey, Mommy makes people to get new jobs. Mommy helps them to get new jobs. And she looked a bit puzzled. And she said, "But why do they want new jobs?" Well, that's a fair question. Well, you know, honey, perhaps they want to do something else. Perhaps they have a dream about another job. She wasn't convinced. She got away. And then after a while, she got back to me, and she was all excited, like jumping up and down. And she said, "Mommy, Mommy, you make people's dreams come true." And I'm like, hell yeah. So to her, I am now a dream maker. I think that is a really awesome title. So suck on that one, Cool Titles Dictionary. Anyways, someone who had a really big dream was Suman. Suman graduated from the Gandhi Technical University in Bhopal in India in 2008. She graduated as a technical engineer, but she also had a huge passion for human relations, which automatically led her into, when she was going to apply for her first job, she wanted to work in recruitment, specifically technical recruitment. And so she did for the following 10 years with really, really good results. She recruited for hundreds and hundreds of jobs. She was actually 4 times the winner of the Star Performance Award in her company. And she was 3 years straight the top 2% achievers in her industry in all of India. Top 2%. One day, Suman's husband got home from his work, and he had gotten an offer from his employer to move to Sweden. Said and done, they decided to move to Stockholm, and Suman was very, very eager to start applying for jobs in Stockholm because she had heard, besides from Amsterdam, that Stockholm was the tech mecca of North Europe. So she started applying for jobs. And over the following 6 months, she applied for over 100 jobs within HR and recruitment. Not once was she calling for an interview. Not even a phone call. Isn't that a bit odd? With all of that experience and knowledge? One day, she applied for a very specific recruiter job. She applied anonymously, without giving out her name or gender or anything like that. The first thing that met her was a set of occupational psychology tests. And Suman scored the highest. The recruiter who picked up Suman's application looked at it and said, "Yes, we have a winner. This is the one that we're going to hire." And then the recruiter could also overlook the fact that Suman didn't speak Swedish, because in Sweden we are quite good at English. So that wasn't an obstacle. To me, this is what unbiased recruitment is all about. And we have been doing unbiased recruitment for the past 15 years, fighting bias within our processes. And for us, unbiased recruitment, it's important to understand what is competence. So for us, competence is a set of 4. It is aptitude, it is personality traits, of course, motivation, and knowledge and experience. So how can we proceed a process where we can find out these things without being biased? We needed to challenge the recruitment process, and we did. We made it reversed. We wanted to find out all of these things in the beginning of the process for all job seekers. So every single job seeker that go through a process through this company applies with occupational psychology tests. That is also why we could set up KPIs throughout the process and measure the right things. So the process can be fully anonymous. It's really good. It can also be fully psychometric, fully automatic, and fully data-driven. And from that, we can also show all the job seekers exactly what we have done, so it can be transparent. One thing that we didn't solve in the beginning was the face-to-face interview. So we have been pushing these boundaries of unbiased recruitment for each step of the process, but we still ended up being biased in the process of interviewing. So for us, it was important to push that boundary as well.
Psychologist Alexander Todorov has discovered the mathematics underlying our first impressions. Using data he's collected from thousands of people at Princeton University, Dr. Todorov has built a computer program that can pinpoint the very parts of a face that trigger our gut instincts. That is, whether someone looks aggressive, introverted, attractive, and so on. See for yourself. As quickly as you can, answer this question. Which of these two people is more trustworthy, A or B? And what about from this pair? And this one? This probably wasn't hard. And in fact, you could have done it even faster. Here's Dr. Todorov.
You don't need more than 160, 200 milliseconds to get pretty much the same first impression you will get from a limited time.
This was Dr. Todorov's first finding, that first impressions are fast. The second finding is perhaps even more surprising. Almost everyone sees the same thing. Consider the faces you just saw. If you're like the majority of people in Dr. Todorov's studies, these are the ones you chose as being more trustworthy. And
Was it right? Yeah. So this sort of proves that humans, well, we are quite biased. And we are quite quick at it as well. Milliseconds for someone to make a first impression. And job interviews are all about that first impression, right? We shake hands, we look at each other, we sit down, we make small talk, we do all of these things. Up until now. So let me introduce you to Tengai, the world's first unbiased social interview robot built on the Furhat platform. So this is an application that we have built upon this robot, where we have combined behavioral science with very, very sophisticated technology in this unique robotics platform. As you might have known, I know this is kind of a bit brag picture, but I like it so much. I'm showing it every single time anyways. Well, we have been featured quite many times, over 300 times over the past 10 months. And for me, that is sort of a little proof to understand how important not the cool technology is, yes, of course, but the purpose it actually serves. Bias is a real problem within recruitment today. And people are feeling that, and people need some sort of solution for it. So what is it with interviews? Sorry about the headline, but it's not really easy way of saying this, because interviews actually suck. Because they are discriminatory, in worst case. According to research from Sweden, 74% of job seekers stated that they had been discriminated against at some point during a recruitment process due to age, looks, gender, or ethnicity. Now that is severe, isn't it? Interviews are also very, very complex because in order to understand future work performance in the interview, we need to ask questions in the same way, at the same speed, at the same height, everything, to all candidates in the same order. Yeah. And from that, we're going to read in some sort of analyze around future work performance. Yeah, it says it all. It's quite complex. And we also know that first impressions color us. It makes us make assumptions. And you know, assumptions is the mother of all fuck-ups. So, well, we need proof, we need facts, we need figures. But interviews makes us make really snap rejections and snap judgments. According to a study, hiring managers actually decided upon a candidate whether or not they shook their hand lightly or steady. They decided upon a candidate how they walked and talked before the interview. Before they have even started the interview, we had already decided. And did you know that 73% of those hiring managers rejected candidates with tattoos? Interviews also have very, very low validity. And it takes us about 5 to 15 minutes to make our decision. It's also quite inefficient. According to a study from Glassdoor, we put more than the double amount of time in interviews now than we did just 10 years ago. Double the time in interviews. And soft skills are becoming more and more important for us. So we think that we need to sit down even longer in the interviews to understand the kind of capacity that job seeker actually has. So what is it that Tengai does that mitigates all of this and helps us in the process? Well, it mitigates bias. Tengai is fully unbiased because she only listens to voice. She doesn't care how you look, what your name is, how old you are, or anything like that. We also have an interview analytics system behind it that also has a diversity and inclusion software. So we don't take into consideration things such as age or looks or gender, or anything that could build up on a discriminatory ground. It also treats all job seekers in the exact same way. Everyone gets the same questions in the right order, in the same order. And as you know, as a recruiter, we are quite affected by our mood that day, right? If I had a fight with my husband in the morning, would you want it to be the first candidate that I met? I wouldn't think so. And also, according to a study from the US, in US federal court, judges had more convictions right before lunch than they did after lunch, after filling up with new energy. Well, recruitment processes might not be as severe as crime, but to the person sitting there having their dreams crushed, it might as just be. This makes us make more objective decisions. Decision based upon facts and figures makes us do more informed decision. It's also built upon science, both from us working with unbiased recruitment for the past 15 years in a manual state, but also validated from psychometric specialists. And it's also very, very efficient. An interview with Tengai takes only somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes, because we focus on what's really important in the interview, nothing else. So, an interview with Tengai, it's based upon 3 different steps. The first one is the welcoming phase, where Tengai introduces herself, talk about how the interview is going to be conducted, and some sort of instruction. The second part is, well, it's actually the interview. So that is the assessment interview phase, where we have combined the Big Five framework together with International Competency Framework, which also makes the robot ask both open-ended questions due to the SBR method, situation, behavior, result, and closed-ended questions. And we have the third step of the process, the next step phase. In lack of different names, we choose that one. Yeah, it's really good. So that is, okay, what's going to happen next? You will, this is what's going to happen. You will meet a recruiter in the next phase, etc. But I'm thinking that you are quite interested in looking at Tengai in action, aren't you? Yeah! So let's do that. I told you that Tengai asks questions throughout a competency framework. So when we use the SBR method, which is open-ended questions, the first question might sound like this.
My first question is about problem solving. Can you tell me about a work or school-related situation where you had to come up with a solution on your own, and why it was a problem to begin with?
As you can hear, she asked for the situation. Describe the situation of this problem, and it's problem solving that we're after. And she can ask follow-up question to that. It might sound like this.
How did you solve the problem?
So how did you go about the problem? And that is when we get the behavior, situation, behavior. And then she follows up again.
What was the result?
And what was the result of your actions? We also use retrospectives in the open-ended question. Sounds like this.
Thinking back on the situation, are you satisfied with the result? Or could you have acted in a different way?
So thinking back at the situation, reflect. So that's the SBR method and the open-ended questions, and obviously this was problem solving. And for the closed-ended questions, it might sound like this.
Does it feel natural for you to take the lead in different types of situations and groups?
Does it feel natural for you to take the lead in different kind of actions? So this was, as you might understand, is extroversion from the Big Five framework. If I would have said yes to this question, it sounds like this.
Would you say that you are really good at leading others?
Would you say that you're really good at leading others? What happened if I said no, Tengai?
Could it be that you rather leave decision-making to others?
All right. Could it be that you rather leave decision-making to others? Yeah. So this is just an example, and today I have my trainer with me, Sinica, who's actually steering the robot because we have her in demo mode. But we use her in Sweden in live interviews for real jobs, and she mixes up those questions. Problem solving, for example. We also do result orientation, team orientation, service orientation, etc. So, what happens with Tengai behind everything then? As I mentioned, we have combined two things, behavioral science and technology. And from the behavioral science part, we have the Big Five framework, and we have the international competency framework, and we mix those questions up. And that goes into the D&I software that scales everything out as of age and looks in general. We don't even put that into the system. We only want to listen to soft skills and personality traits, nothing else. So voice goes into text, and text transforms to data. And that data is also possible to analyze. So we have an interview analytics system, and it's also possible to extract the data that we want for this specific role in order to understand what purpose it serves, and in order to also correlate it with future work performance. So this gives us a scoring system behind it, which basically means that we could screen all job seekers in an interview situation and get the top 5. The killer question that we always get. I understand this. This sounds really good, but what does the candidate think about this? They're meeting a freaking robot. Yes, we know. And for us, it all comes down to user interface. And we have been working quite a lot with biology. So what candidates actually say after the interview is that, one, they all of a sudden start forgetting that it was a robot that they were talking to. And people say, but they can see it's a robot. Are they stupid? No, obviously not. But we have worked so much with biology that even though you can see it's a piece of plastic, it behaves as a human. So the human starts thinking that, all right, I see it's a piece of plastic, but it behaves as a human, therefore, it's a human. And that also makes job seekers, and they have also stated that after the interview, that they feel that they can be more honest in the interview. Isn't that interesting? They can feel that they can be more like themselves, true to themselves, which automatically brings higher quality to the process. They don't need to impress a recruiter. They don't need to meet me when I had a fight with my husband in the morning. They can meet Tengai and get the same treatment as they deserve. We also get the question, but what about video systems and that kind of stuff? Isn't that better? Well, it's a matter of user interface again, and it's a matter of proximity. If me and Helene would have been in a very private conversation and we would have been 5 meters apart, it would feel a bit strange, right? So that is the feeling we get when we put a screen in front of us. And we also get the Mona Lisa effect. Have you experienced that from video interviewing? I have. Not really know where to look. You get this lag and things. It's always also a question of co-presence. We feel more engaged as job seekers and candidates in our process when we feel there's someone present in the room. So if that person can't be a human, yeah, we can settle with a robot. So overall, candidates are very, very positive about this because they also know that they are being treated fairly. So are robots better at interviewing than humans? I think you know my answer to that question. It is yes. It is of a number of reasons. I've been doing this for a very long time. And the more I learn about biases and how we conduct interviews, the more I feel that it's impossible for me as a human not to be biased. It's within our nature to be biased. We can do unbiased training, and we can train ourselves to understand the biases that we have, and that can help some. But still, it's ridiculously hard to be unbiased as a human. So this is an unbiased approach, of course. It treats all candidates fairly in the same way. It's also very good for compliance because we have all the data that actually happened in the interview. So it's really, really good for feedbacking candidates as well. So if a candidate wants to know what happened during my interview or why was I rejected, we already have all the answers. It also brings more diverse team. From what we can see within our recruitment processes, we are choosing other candidates than the ones that we would have chosen through a manual process, which basically brings diversity, it brings inclusion, and all of these things. It's also validated. We're working with some of Sweden's best psychometric specialists in this area. And of course, it is efficient. It comes to a lower cost than hiring the wrong people. And it actually works. During this summer, the world's first interview and the first process with robots conducting them was proceed, and it was a success. This is the hiring manager speaking. For me, it was a success from beginning to end. And as you know, we haven't even launched our first product yet. We are now in partnership with Tengai, who are using this robot in live situations in real recruitment processes, but we are launching the first standalone product early next year. So if you're interested in that, don't forget to sign up on the waiting list. It's becoming quite long at this point, but we still have a few spots left. We will be here also after this speech, up on the second floor, where it's possible for you to actually answer some of the interview questions. We have 2 robots upstairs, if you're interested in that. And also, we do have all of this social media where you can follow us and everything like that. So, thank you very much for listening, and hopefully you will be able to ask us all of the questions. I know that you will have some questions too, Helen. Yeah. So thank you.
Very, very interesting. So what happens if the candidate had a fight with her husband that morning? Does Tengai knows?
She doesn't know that.
She doesn't know.
No.
But does she feel my emotions?
No, she can't feel emotions.
And
No.
if I'm like struggled or feel maybe a little bit uncomfortable about the answer I have to give, what is Tengai telling me?
You can always do the interview once again with the same sort of situation.
Yes.
But once again, this isn't a human.
No.
It doesn't feel emotions. It is a recruitment tool. And it's important to understand the difference. This is only the user interface that we use for people feeling more comfortable in their interviews.
Yeah, I can really feel it, and I know that she tells me also, like, oh, you can have a rest moment to think about the question, right?
Yeah, she can ask questions right back. Do you
Yeah.
need more time, or do you
Yeah.
want to take a pause, or something like that? Yes.
Wonderful, thank you so much. So I will take a look. What would happen if Tengai talks to a candidate version of Tengai?
Yeah, I think we have the movie iRobot, basically.
All right. Okay. Tengai has 7 brothers and sisters right now, right? So,
At the moment,
yes.
yes.
7 brothers and sisters. And it's a she or a he, we don't know, neutron. How do you deal with all bias in historical data? How does this impact the ML process?
Yeah, good question.
Yes.
We don't use any historical data into the process or into the system at this point. But it's important when you use ML systems to understand what kind of data sets we're using. So for us, it's important to understand that we don't use data sets that could naturally trigger the algorithm in being biased. And it's also nowadays, it's possible to actually check your code for bias. And for us, it's also important to work with the data sets according to a very diverse workforce. So for example, our programmers have different backgrounds, different diversities, etc.
Yes, interesting. Yeah, I had the same question, but why is it a she? It's coming up
It
again. It's
is
coming
actually
up
a good
also.
question. From the beginning, this is supposed to be a neutral face. So we worked very much with creating a neutral face, and then we started working with neutral voices, and that totally freaked people out. Have you heard a neutral voice anyway? At some
No.
point, no. It wasn't that good. So we wanted to create. So we said, okay, let's go for the situation where we could actually create calmness and secureness in the interview, and
Of course,
pick
that's
either
the lady.
one. Yeah.
Yes, okay. How did you validate the B5 results from the interviews?
Oh, that's a very, very long story. So we're working with psychometric specialists, and that comes from science of working with norm groups. Yes.
I think that's a funny one. What's the price of Tengai?
Oh, that's a very good question.
Yeah.
The price starts at 3,500 euros a month.
For one Tengai?
For one Tengai,
For a
yes.
lot of interviews?
For a lot of interviews. And then
Yeah.
it actually scales in that way. So as for assessment tests, you pay per use.
Rumor around, yes, okay. Very much. You think it's very much?
Depending on how much it costs for making a bad
decision.
recruitment decision, I think the cost is quite low.
Yeah.
And also in comparison to a human recruiter, this is like 10 times the effect.
Yeah, but it's very Dutch to ask for the price, don't you think? Can we use Tengai as a pilot?
As a pilot, sure.
Yeah.
Just contact me afterwards and we can start pilots.
When will Tengai know Dutch? You start in English.
Yeah, good question. Since behavioral science isn't connected to language at all, so for us it's basically rolling out new languages. So we're starting with Swedish and English, and then we go by size and customers.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Tengai looks quite white and male. Isn't that creating a bias by itself already? Very interesting.
Very interesting
Very
question.
interesting
And a
question.
vision that we have, wouldn't it be cool if you as a candidate could choose the Tengai, the looks of Tengai in your interview? You could perhaps choose if it's a male or a female, or if it's light skin or dark skin or whatever.
Will it be
But
a
this
George
is
Clooney,
the face that we have chosen for Tengai as the
Ah.
first product.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, that's interesting. Last question. Maybe you can pick a question. Which would you like to answer?
Can humans be trained to not be biased? Yes.
Yes.
We have been doing unbiased training for many, many, many years. It is hard. And it's all about awareness of your own biases. And the thing is that when we end up at the end of the process, with all of that information that we have from the process, and from which we could actually make better decisions, then is when you start realizing, okay, if I'm not going with this candidate, it's only my own bias speaking. So being more aware, it creates a good knowledge base for making better decisions and unbiased decisions.
And that's really your purpose.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much. Give her a very, very good applause.